I would like to see all kinds of different people doing stuff like this, you know, making things and making music out of them. And so whatever I can do to encourage that, you know, I'd like to do. It isn't all that hard. It's not like there's no magic pixie dust about music. It's just like you take a sound and put it with another sound, you know. With instruments, it's you just find a sound that interests you and then find out ways that you can work with it, you know. Some people would say control it. I don't think that's really the point. I think the point is more that you learn to work in cooperation with whatever sounding object you're using. So that means that you want to be able to affect its pitch. You know, I want this to be higher, or I want this to sound more consonant with this, or I want this to be more dissonant with that. And the other thing is about the volume of it. You know, pickups make it really easy to control volume. You just have a knob and you can do it. And so that's pretty simple. You know, pitch is just about sizes of things, basically. You know, and getting them to participate, you work with these things, you know. And you can work with anything, right? It's like there's a guy who built sandbag houses. I can't remember, the Khalid something or other, and he built these sandbag houses in California, and they were very cheap and easy to build and stuff like that. And kind of the Bureau of Standards or whatever it was, you know, didn't want to embrace them. It like, you know, these are no good. They're not like our typical houses. Like, you didn't have to, all you needed was some bags. Like, you didn't need to go to Home Depot and buy a lot of like unsustainable forestry products, you know, or build your house out of glue, you know, which is, you know, plywood is like, or particle board and stuff like that is like 80% glue, right? Which has formaldehyde in it, by the way, you know. So they did them, and he built them, and so the test was they got these, you know, big machines and tried to like pull them down, and they broke the machines. You know, they were way stronger. They got to like 3 times as much as it took to pull down a regular house, and you know, ended up pulling the machine down. So there's all kinds of ways of doing things that haven't been thought of yet, and if we think those up and we start with sounds we like, right? Instead of just saying, oh, well, you know, like, I'll do what I can with this guitar sound, or this, like, you know, preset 175 from my keyboard, or like whatever, you know. Instead of just accepting those and working with those, it's like, you know, good poets and, you know, they invent language, right? You know, they don't just take, you know, whatever English they learned in school and do them. They like add stuff to it and come up with various neologisms and, you know, put their own kind of spin on it and stuff like that. And so we don't need to use that like what's already been there. Like, we can start from the ground up, and, you know, if we choose an object to make the sound with, say it's a, you know, bar of metal, or say it's a string, or say it's a tube that we blow across some way in order to make it sound, you know, whatever it is, you know, there aren't that many ways of doing that. It's pretty simple. There's kind of like 4 types of instruments, right? And so that anything is a variation on some concept of that. So, like, you know, the same way as words, there's like nouns and verbs and adjectives and adverbs, and everything falls into those qualities. Well, instruments are kind of like the parts of speech, right? So the goal should be to express ourselves, you know, instead of to, you know, struggle with what's already there, you know. The song says, don't be another sequel, express yourself, you know. And so I would really like to see lots of people doing this. And, you know, so what I want to say from having done this for a long time is that it isn't that hard to do, you know. And there's nothing particularly mysterious about any of this. It's pretty simple stuff. The kind of skills and stuff required, well, you'll make them to your level of that, and that's fine, right? It's you know, we'll hear some native music from some place, you know, and they'll have very little technology there. Somebody will have, like, you know, a couple of tools and make things from them, you know. Gamelan, like, you know, you have some brass and a fire and hammers and boom, 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 and, you know, there you go. You know, it's not, yes, it takes time. I'd be willing to bet it doesn't take any more time to make something that you want than it does to earn the money to go buy it, you know. So, you know, here's the thing too, is that say you make something and it's sort of quirky and weird and like that. From one perspective, that might be, you know, a detriment, but to another, it's not at all. That makes it like, you know, that's going to make that sound like you. So if you're interested in expressing yourself, then cool. That's not a detriment. It's a positive about it, right? So yeah, I would just, you know, I think it would be really fun if, like, sometime in the near future we traveled around and wherever we went had different sounds and different musics to investigate. You know, this is a way we can think globally, you know, and act locally. You know, like let's stop trying to be the same as everybody else, and let's stop trying to be like, you know, particularly for people who are interested in like overthrowing the status quo or whatever. Man, you're not gonna do that by just doing the same shit as everybody else. Like, you know, what makes the status quo is our acceptance of the homogenization of things, right? And that's what I think, like, emotionally, that we object to, is like that we don't feel like we're empowered, and we don't feel like that, you know, we're our own special snowflake or whatever. And this is a sort of, you know, it doesn't harm anybody. It doesn't harm anybody to, like, make different sounds, right? Like, they can like them or not like them, you know. Any sound that you come up with and work with for a while, you'll find a way to use it, you know. It's if you want to make something that sounds the same and behaves the same way as something you could buy, well, okay, you know, like, that's not very imaginative in the first place, and yeah, you'll probably have a hard time doing that. Like, you know, you're competing against, you know, giant CNC machines that cost millions and millions of dollars and can make everything exactly the same, piles and piles and piles of them, you know, and you're working by yourself with your hand tools. No, you're probably not going to get that, you know. It's So if that's what you want, yeah, go and go buy it. You know, it's but not buying it gives you this opportunity of doing something else. Don't be another sequel.